New York City never sleeps, but for some, it never lets you rest either. For Maya Lopez, mornings began before sunrise, not because she was a morning person, but because the city demanded it. She lived in a cramped Brooklyn apartment with peeling white paint and windows that barely kept out the chill. Her mornings were filled with the aroma of cheap coffee, the hum of her ancient laptop, and the click of her camera's shutter. Maya was a mixed content creator, part photographer, part videographer, part social media strategist, basically whatever paid the bills. She worked with small businesses, mostly struggling mom-and-pop shops, helping them tell their stories online. It wasn't glamorous, but it was hers. Across town, Ethan Carter was fighting his own battles. 3 months ago, he quit his job as a corporate marketing manager at a Fortune 500 company. On paper, it was a bold leap toward freedom and creativity. In reality, it felt like he'd stepped off a cliff and was waiting to hit the ground. His apartment in Queens was a stark reminder of his situation. The rent was cheaper, but so was the heating, and his savings were evaporating like rain on hot pavement. He spent his days filming videos about business growth, editing tutorials, and pitching to brands, often to radio silence. The irony wasn't lost on him. He used to manage million-dollar marketing budgets, yet now he couldn't even land a $500 gig consistently. It was a Thursday night when their paths crossed. Maya almost didn't go to the NYC Creators Collective meetup, but a free ticket from a friend sealed the deal. The event was hosted in a trendy co-working space in Manhattan, filled with ring lights, laughter, and a sea of ambitious dreamers clutching business cards. Ethan was there reluctantly too, nursing a lukewarm cup of coffee and trying to look like he wasn't drowning in self-doubt. They met near the snack table. Maya was photographing the event for practice when Ethan bumped into her, nearly spilling her drink. "Whoa, sorry about that," Ethan said, steadying her arm. Maya looked up, a mix of surprise and annoyance. "No worries. My camera is safe, so you're safe for now," she teased, raising an eyebrow. They exchanged a laugh, the kind that breaks the ice between strangers. They talked briefly about their work. Ethan admitted he'd recently gone solo and was figuring things out. Maya, with a knowing smile, said, "Welcome to the world of late-night edits and early-morning panic attacks." That night, they swapped numbers, though neither expected much to come of it. A week later, Maya received a call from Mrs. Rodriguez, the owner of a tiny family-run bakery in the Bronx. Sales were plummeting, and she couldn't afford expensive marketing. Maya wanted to help, but knew she couldn't do it alone. She thought of Ethan. "Hey," she texted. "Random question. Are you free to collaborate on a small project this weekend? Pay's not great, but the story's worth it." Ethan hesitated. He needed paying gigs desperately. But something about the message intrigued him. "I'm in," he replied. That Saturday, they met at the bakery. The smell of fresh bread and cinnamon filled the air. Mrs. Rodriguez greeted them with warm hugs, as if they were old friends rather than hired help. Together, Maya and Ethan spent the day capturing behind-the-scenes shots, interviewing the family, and crafting a heartfelt brand story. Maya's eye for visuals paired perfectly with Ethan's knack for strategy and messaging. By the end of the day, they were exhausted but exhilarated. As they packed up, Maya looked at him and said, "You're good at this, Ethan." He smiled, a genuine one that reached his tired eyes. It feels good to do work that actually matters. Over the next few months, Maya and Ethan became a team. They hustled through the city together, filming in coffee shops, corner stores, and bustling farmers markets. They shared cramped Uber rides, cold pizza dinners, and endless cups of coffee. Their bond deepened in ways neither expected. Maya found herself opening up about her past, about how she'd left a cushy corporate job after a devastating breakup. Her ex-fiancé had told her she was too unrealistic, that her dreams of creating meaningful art were childish. "I guess I wanted to prove him wrong," she admitted one rainy night as they edited videos together. Ethan, in turn, shared his own struggles with burnout and imposter syndrome. "I thought leaving corporate would set me free," he said quietly. "But sometimes, I feel like I traded one cage for another." Their vulnerabilities created a space of trust, and somewhere between deadlines and laughter, something more than friendship began to bloom. Their big break came unexpectedly. A rising fashion startup, Luna Threads, discovered their work with local businesses and reached out. It was a massive opportunity, one that could catapult them into a higher league of clients. 4 weeks, they poured everything into the project. Late nights turned into early mornings. Deadlines loomed like storm clouds. At first, the adrenaline kept them going. But slowly, cracks began to show. Ethan, who was used to leading teams in his corporate days, became more controlling, questioning Maya's creative decisions. "This shot won't resonate with their target demo," he'd argue. Maya, fiercely protective of her artistic vision, pushed back. "Not everything is about analytics, Ethan. Sometimes people just feel something." Their once seamless rhythm turned into a clashing duet of egos and insecurities. The breaking point came one night at 2 a.m. in Maya's apartment. They were editing a campaign video, exhaustion written on their faces. "This isn't working," Ethan snapped, slamming his laptop shut. "You keep undermining me like my ideas don't matter." Maya froze, hurt flashing in her eyes. "And you keep treating me like I'm your intern, not your partner." The silence between them was deafening. Finally, Ethan grabbed his bag and walked out, leaving Maya staring at the empty doorway with tears threatening to spill. 4 weeks, they didn't speak. The Luna Threads project wrapped up successfully, but they delivered the final files separately. During their separation, both focused inward. Maya poured her energy into a personal project she'd long dreamed of, a documentary series highlighting small businesses surviving against the odds in New York. It was raw, authentic, and deeply personal. Ethan, meanwhile, started a solo content series about entrepreneurship and mental health, openly discussing burnout and failure. His honesty resonated with viewers, and slowly his audience began to grow. Though apart, they both evolved not just as creators, but as individuals. Months later, Maya's documentary was selected for a panel at a major creative conference. She stood backstage, heart pounding, unsure if she was ready. When she walked out under the bright lights, she scanned the crowd and froze. Ethan was there, sitting quietly in the back row, watching her with the same pride he used to show during their early projects. After her talk, he approached her cautiously. "You were incredible," he said softly. Maya's throat tightened. "You came." "Of course I did." He paused, searching her face. "I'm sorry, Maya, for everything. I let my fears get in the way." She blinked back tears. "I'm sorry too. I missed this. Us." They didn't rush back into things. Instead, they started a small coffee here, a brainstorming session there. Slowly, they began to create together again, this time with clearer boundaries and deeper understanding. One evening, as the sun set over the Brooklyn Bridge, Maya set up her camera for a new video. Ethan stood beside her, holding a reflector, and smiled. "Ready to make some magic?" Maya laughed, her heart full. "Always." As the camera's red light blinked on, they began filming. Partners, creators, maybe even lovers, leaving the rest of their story unwritten. And in that golden hour glow, surrounded by the city that had tested and shaped them, Maya and Ethan realized that sometimes love isn't about perfect endings. It's about choosing each other one frame at a time. The city was buzzing again, as if it had never paused for Maya and Ethan's stormy months apart. Winter had melted into spring, and with it came fresh energy and new opportunities. For Maya, life had settled into a rhythm she hadn't felt in years. Her documentary series about small businesses had gained attention after the creative conference. She was still hustling, but now people were calling her instead of the other way around. Ethan's YouTube channel was growing steadily. His raw, honest content about entrepreneurship, burnout, and personal growth had struck a chord with thousands. For the first time in months, he felt like he was building something sustainable, not just chasing the next gig. Their relationship was mending too, slowly but surely. A coffee date turned into a weekend shoot, which turned into late-night brainstorming sessions again. They weren't rushing to define what they were, but both knew the second chance was worth protecting. But as their work lives grew, a new challenge quietly crept in. Money. The awakening. It started with a simple conversation one Thursday morning. They were at Maya's apartment, reviewing footage for a local farmers market campaign. Ethan glanced at a crumpled receipt sticking out of Maya's bag. "Did you just spend $180 on new camera gear?" he asked, trying to sound casual. Maya didn't look up. "Yeah, a new lens hood. It's an investment." Ethan raised an eyebrow. Sure, but we've been talking about keeping expenses low, remember? Maya sighed, setting down her coffee. Ethan, you know how it is. If I don't have the right gear, I can't compete. He hesitated, choosing his words carefully. I get that, but we've been working nonstop, and we still haven't really figured out our finances. Don't you think it's time we... Maya cut him off, defensive. I'm not irresponsible with money, Ethan. He held up his hands. I didn't say you were. I don't want us to end up like so many creators I know drowning in debt because no one taught us how to manage our income. Her silence was sharp, the kind that made him wish he'd kept quiet. But deep down, Maya knew he wasn't wrong. Reality check. A week later, reality smacked them both in the face. They had just wrapped a high-paying project for a new client, a trendy organic skincare brand in Manhattan. The payday was supposed to feel like a victory, a sign that their hard work was finally paying off. Instead, when they sat down to review their bank accounts, the numbers didn't add up. Wait, how are we already this low on funds? Maya asked, scrolling through her account in disbelief. Ethan rubbed his temples. Because we didn't track our expenses. Between ride shares, last-minute gear purchases, coffee meetings, and rush print jobs, it adds up. Maya's stomach twisted. But we just made $8,000 on this project. Exactly, Ethan said, his voice heavy. And somehow, half of it is already gone. The weight of it settled between them. They had been so focused on building their brand, growing their audience, and pleasing clients that they'd neglected the foundation of any business, financial discipline. Back to the basics. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. Memories of his corporate life crept in spreadsheets, budgets, quarterly reports. Back then, he hated bureaucracy. But now, he would have given anything for a little structure. The next morning, he showed up at Maya's apartment with coffee and a notebook. Okay, he said, setting it down on the table with a thud. We're fixing this. Maya blinked at him. Fixing what? Our finances. Our future. His tone was determined. We need to start treating this like a real business, not a passion project. Maya groaned. Ethan, I'm serious, he insisted. Think about it. If we want to grow, if we want to stop living gig to gig, we have to get smart about money. Reluctantly, Maya nodded. Fine. Where do we start? Step 1, the audit. They spent the entire weekend combing through their expenses. Ride shares, coffee runs, software subscriptions they hadn't used in months, random splurges on equipment. By Sunday night, the total was staggering. No wonder we're broke, Maya muttered, burying her face in her hands. We're bleeding money. Ethan handed her a sticky note labeled needs versus wants. This, he said firmly, is our new mantra. They decided to separate expenses into 3 categories. Essential costs, rent, utilities, basic gear maintenance. Growth investments, courses, marketing, tools that directly increased revenue. Luxury extras, everything else. If an expense didn't fit into the first 2 categories, it had to be cut, no excuses. Step 2, the safety net. Ethan introduced Maya to something she'd never considered before, an emergency fund. What if a client bails on us at the last minute? Or a camera breaks? He asked. We need at least 3 months of expenses saved up. Maya's eyes widened. 3 months? Ethan, that's impossible. Not if we plan for it, he countered. From now on, 20% of every paycheck goes straight into savings. Non-negotiable. At first, it felt like a sacrifice. But slowly, watching that savings account grow became addictive. For the first time, they weren't terrified of sudden disasters. Step 3, the growth plan. Once the bleeding stopped, they focused on scaling. We can't just keep trading time for money, Ethan explained. We need streams of income that work while we sleep. Together, they brainstormed, selling digital products like presets and templates, offering online workshops for aspiring creators, building a membership site with exclusive content, leveraging affiliate marketing partnerships. Maya was hesitant at first. What if no one buys? Ethan smiled. Then we adjust and try again. But at least we'll be building something bigger than ourselves. The first test, their first real test of discipline, came sooner than expected. A luxury travel brand reached out with a lucrative offer, an all-expenses-paid trip to Europe to create promotional content. Maya's eyes lit up. Ethan, this could change everything. Ethan, ever cautious, asked, "What's the catch?" As it turned out, there was a catch. The brand wanted full rights to their work, plus a significant upfront investment in specialized equipment, all before they got paid. Old Maya would have said yes immediately. But now, with their new financial system, they took a step back. They reviewed the budget, weighed the risks, and ultimately decided to decline. "It sucks to walk away," Maya admitted. "But I feel strangely proud." Ethan grinned. "That's financial discipline, baby. Growth pains." As their systems improved, so did their success. Within 6 months, they doubled their income, not just because they were earning more, but because they were keeping more. But it wasn't always easy. Maya still struggled with impulse purchases. Ethan still wrestled with a scarcity mindset, terrified of losing it all again. There were tense conversations, late-night arguments, and moments of doubt. Yet each challenge brought them closer, teaching them to communicate not just about creativity, but about the unglamorous realities of running a business. A new opportunity. One evening, as they reviewed their quarterly goals, an email pinged into Ethan's inbox. It was from Luna Threads, the fashion startup that had once been their big break and their breaking point. Ethan read it aloud. "We've been following your new work and would love to discuss a retainer partnership." Maya's jaw dropped. "A retainer? Ethan, that could mean consistent income." He nodded slowly, his mind already calculating budgets and timelines. But this time, they weren't rushing in blindly. They reviewed contracts, set clear expectations, and negotiated terms that respected both their creativity and their financial stability. When they finally signed, it felt different than before. Calmer, stronger, more sustainable. The golden hour. Months later, they stood on a rooftop in Brooklyn, filming a sunset shot for Luna Thread's summer campaign. As the golden light bathed the city, Maya glanced at Ethan. "Remember when we were broke and living on cold pizza?" she teased. Ethan laughed. "Don't remind me." She grew serious. "We've come a long way, haven't we?" He nodded, his voice soft. "We really have." They weren't just building a business anymore. They were building a future, one grounded in passion, partnership, and financial discipline. As the camera's red light blinked on, they captured the moment together, knowing that this time, they weren't just chasing dreams. They were making them sustainable.